TCM.com.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Thanks for joining us for this month's TCM Spotlight. Every Tuesday in prime time, we're focusing on one of the 5 directors featured in Mark Harris's book, 5 Came Back, the story of 5 prominent Hollywood directors who joined the armed services during World War II to make documentaries, to make propaganda, to help win the war. Mark is our guest all month. Mark, welcome.
Thanks, man. I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. For the next several hours, our focus is on director John Huston, and we begin with the film he made just prior to joining the service from 1942, Across the Pacific. You know, if you look at the cast here, Bogart, Astor, Greenstreet, you'd think we were looking at a sequel to The Maltese Falcon.
Right, and if Jack Warner had had his way, that's exactly what we would have been looking at. The Maltese Falcon was John Huston's first movie as director, and it was a huge hit. It came out right about the time of Pearl Harbor, and Jack Warner instantly wanted a sequel and was very, very disappointed to find out that Dashiell Hammett, the author of the novel The Maltese Falcon, had not sold Warner Brothers the rights to those characters. So since he couldn't commission a sequel, he commissioned the next best thing, which was a reunion of the cast in a thriller. And the funny thing about Across the Pacific is a lot of movies during 1942 and 1943 were rewritten or updated or changed to be closer to news events. Across the Pacific was one of the very few that was changed because it was too close to the news.
It was supposed to be about a Japanese attack, not so much a military attack, but sabotage at Pearl Harbor, right?
Right. And this was conceived well before Pearl Harbor, and it was too close for comfort. It was judged to be insensitive, and I think that was probably the right call, given how recently Pearl Harbor had happened.
So the plot was changed how?
The plot was changed in that the sabotage/espionage was relocated from Pearl Harbor to the Panama Canal, leaving a big mystery that maybe viewers will be able to solve, but I don't think anyone else has ever had, which is why is this movie called Across the Pacific?
The Pacific does not enter into it.
Not really.
It's a pretty good film. It's not Casablanca. It's not The Maltese Falcon. But there are some reflections of the times. I don't want to spoil a plot point, but there is some significant caricaturing of Japanese Americans.
Right. I mean, many, many negative stereotypes of Japanese people and Japanese Americans showed up, particularly in movies from 1942 to 1944. And John Huston, both in this movie and in some of the films he worked on as documentaries or propaganda, was particularly prone to these really nasty, kind of almost visually ugly stereotypes. And you're going to see one in Across the Pacific that is very much of its time.
When John Huston made The Maltese Falcon, the reaction instantly was overwhelming. The film did very well. And once he joined the Army and went to work for Frank Capra, John Huston, for the whole time, this was a guy comfortable, not taking orders from people, but comfortable with that kind of adventurous life in the military.
Yeah, John Huston thought the war was going to be a big lark for him, a kind of, he was someone who's very, very invested in proving his bravery. He thought this will be a girl in every port, which at some points in the war it actually was for him. But the war was also very, very traumatic for him and testing of his bravery and his fortitude in ways that he didn't anticipate and that he was very candid later in saying really shook him up.
All right, Mark, thanks very much. From 1942, here's the film Huston made right before entering the service. Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, Sidney Greenstreet in Across the Pacific.